All right. The announcement is Amazon Macie introduces new capability to securely review and validate sensitive data found in an S3 object. So I put the URL of the article into the comments, so for anyone who wants to follow along. And this one's also brand new. This one just came out, about an hour ago.
Yep. Yeah. So AWS Macie is actually a really neat service with a bunch of different tools that identify things like PII, PHI, and so on in your data. And this is a very, very fundamental problem for anyone that is bringing in data into their systems, making sure that it is scraped of all of this data upfront is something that you want to do. And tools are, few and far between, especially tools that work well are few and far between. But Macy's has been remarkably good at doing these kinds of detections and fixing your problem. And it can be it can be part of your data ingestion workflow itself, and it just comes in it kind of operates really smoothly. Once you have stuff in S3, you can basically have the S3 event trigger, a job to go figure out whether there's anything that is non-compliant, and then you can automatically, pull in a glue job if you need to clean stuff up. So really, really useful tool, and looks like they've got a bunch of new checks or reviews that you can validate.
So even what it says, credential materials. So is this what powers, say, if you check in a key to a public-facing repo or a key where it shouldn't be?
I think so. I think that's exactly what they're trying to do with the GitHub stuff. But here, I mean, if you've checked in a bunch of stuff where something is tagged, like a key value pair is tagged with the password somewhere, and you see free text, then this would end up flagging it, which is pretty neat. So you want to make sure that in whatever you're dumping into S3, you don't have, clear text passwords and stuff like that stored. So incredibly valuable.
Do we know what the pricing is? Let's see the pricing. US East, 10 cents per bucket.
Correct.
50,000 gigabytes at $1 per gigabyte. So, wow.
This is cheap depending on how much data you're pulling in. To make sure that you don't have PII, PHI, like the liabilities associated with pulling those in and potentially not handling the right way are severe. So just having this one simple check in place, I think, makes a big difference.
I think back when I was in healthcare IT, I think the internal number we had going around was like $1 million per patient record. So think, this CSV file is worth $300 million. It's a bit, and plus HIPAA means you expose yourself to personal criminal liability for doing the wrong thing. Correct. So yeah, this is a lot cheaper. This is very, very, very cheap. We wouldn't hesitate for a second to run this on anything that could possibly have personal or anything sensitive in it.
Yeah. By the way, I also saw GDPR in there. I am no GDPR expert or specialist. So if anyone in the audience is, please feel free to comment and enlighten us. But in whatever little experience I have had dealing with GDPR, I find that it is an interpretation depending on the country or the region or wherever it's applicable. And it's also a function of the kind of data you have. So I'd be curious to see what specific checks come out of the box or are available out of the box for GDPR.
Yeah, I'm really curious about that too. And I think for some of I know that some of the regulations involve, if you pull your data, what happens to a machine learning model that was trained on that data? And that's a bit more fuzzy because you retrain existing models that are deployed? And I think that some people do. And I think to be compliant, you might need to. But at least being able to identify any plain text blob that has a name, an address, a credit card, a password. Let's see. They have a link to sensitive data, manage data identifiers.
Yeah.
Okay.
Could we zoom in a little bit over here?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So look for JSON web tokens, PuTTY private keys, bank account number. This is cool.
Yeah. So we've used a bunch of Macie stuff for a bunch of customer data that we pull in. So we've been using Macie quite extensively. But did they say which ones are new? So credit card stuff has been there for a while. I think the JSON tokens I hadn't seen earlier. HIPAA compliant stuff might also be new. Interesting.
It's funny with JSON tokens how you tend to memorize what a opening curly bracket looks like in base 64 of lowercase e lowercase y capital J. Like, okay, I know what this is.
Very true. So yeah, I mean, this is the easiest way to kind of filter out all of the potential dangerous PII, PHI, HIPAA kind of and GDPR data. So I would give it the stamp of it simplifies life. For sure.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to build a system that does this from scratch.
And to get the amount of training data to build this from scratch would be really hard.
Yeah,
and
actually,
even handling that training data would be difficult in and of itself because you need all that personal information to train it.
You're absolutely right. I think just data would be so scarce that we'd never build a decent system if we were to do it ourselves. So the fact that this is available as a super cheap service in the context of what not having it means, this absolutely falls in the simplifies bucket.
All right. Well, anything else we should talk about before we move on to the next one?
Yeah, I just realized as I was looking at the comments that he posted, we are on YouTube. So last week we talked about getting onto YouTube as well. So now we've moved on to 5 channels.
Yep, we are on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter.
Awesome. So we got one more channel in, and hopefully we can get someone from StreamYard, coming in and talking about how they do all of this amazing stuff. Looking forward to that episode.
Absolutely. We'll get that lined up and calendared. All right, we're going to switch gears to